Hazel Grant wasn't reckless. She didn't lie, didn't gamble, didn't take risks. But one phone call from her mother, one accidental lie about a fake boyfriend who didn't exist, sent her life spinning toward a man whose world runs on power, loyalty, and danger. And he isn't the kind of man who says no. The city never sleeps, but at 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday, Blackstone Corporation's 32nd floor should have been a tomb of darkness and silence. Instead, Hazel Grant's fingers flew across her keyboard, the blue-white glow of her monitor casting shadows across her tired face. One more iteration. Just one more mock-up and she could finally. A sound stopped her cold. Footsteps. In the break room. Her pulse kicked up. Security made rounds at midnight, not before. She stood slowly, her ballet flats soundless on the polished concrete floor, and peered around the corner into the kitchen area. A man stood at the counter, his back to her. Tall, devastatingly so, with shoulders that filled out his crisp white dress shirt like he'd been poured into it. Dark slacks. No jacket. Sleeves rolled up to reveal forearms roped with muscle and traced with ink that disappeared beneath the fabric. His black hair was slightly mussed, as if he'd been running his hands through it. He was making tea. The domestic normalcy of it, the careful way he poured the hot water, the quiet clink of the spoon, made something in Hazel's chest unclench. Just another corporate slave, burning the midnight oil. "Let me guess," she said, stepping into the light with a tired smile. "Your boss is making you slave away too?" He went perfectly still. Then he turned. Hazel's breath caught. She'd seen beautiful men before. Seattle was full of tech bros with their gym memberships and their carefully groomed beards. But this man was something else entirely. Dangerously beautiful. The kind of face that ancient empires would have gone to war over. Sharp jaw, high cheekbones, full lips that looked carved from stone. And his eyes, dark, endless, framed by thick lashes that should have softened his features but somehow made him more lethal. A thin scar cut through his left eyebrow. Tattoos crept up his neck from beneath his collar. She caught a glimpse of what might have been a dragon's tail. He stared at her for a heartbeat. 2. Then, shockingly, he laughed. It was quiet, warm, genuine, a sound that seemed to surprise him as much as it surprised her. The corner of his mouth lifted in a half-smile that transformed his entire face, made him look younger, almost boyish. "Something like that," he murmured, his voice deep and slightly rough, accented with the careful precision of someone who'd learned English as a second language. Hazel felt heat creep up her neck. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to, I just saw the light and thought," she was rambling. Wow, she was rambling. I'll go." "Don't." He said it softly, but it was clearly a command. "Your tea will get cold." She blinked. "I wasn't making." He gestured to the counter, where a second mug sat steaming. Chamomile. Her favorite. "How did you?" But he was already walking past her, close enough that she caught his scent. Dark amber and something darker, something that made her stomach flip, and then he was gone, disappearing into the shadows of the corridor like he'd never been there at all. Hazel stood frozen, her heart hammering against her ribs. What the hell just happened? Morning came too quickly, dragging Hazel from restless dreams of dark eyes and dangerous smiles. She'd barely slept, kept awake by the memory of that voice, those hands, the way he'd looked at her like she was the most interesting thing he'd seen in years. She dressed carefully, a soft lavender blouse, black slacks, minimal makeup, and made it to her desk by 8:45. The UX design department was already buzzing with unusual energy. People clustered in groups, whispering. "What's going on?" Hazel asked Marcus, the junior developer who sat across from her. "Daniel chokehold on all hands," Marcus said, practically vibrating. "Someone said the real owner is actually showing up this time." Hazel's stomach dropped. "The real owner?" "Yeah, you know, the ghost. The guy who actually runs this place but never shows his face. Lee something. Korean dude. Supposedly he's..." "Everyone, please take your seats." Daniel Cho's smooth voice cut through the chatter. He stood at the front of the room, immaculate as always in his designer suit, his smile practiced and perfect. "I know we're all curious, so I won't waste time. I'd like to introduce you all to someone you've heard about but never met. The founder and CEO of Blackstone Corporation, Lee Sun-woo." The man from last night stepped into view. Hazel's soul left her body. He wore a black suit today, tailored so perfectly it looked like sin. His hair was styled back, revealing the full devastating impact of his face in the harsh fluorescent lights. He looked bigger somehow, more imposing, his presence sucking all the air from the room. His gaze swept across the assembled employees, cool, assessing, utterly detached. Until it landed on her. Something flickered in those dark eyes. The corner of his mouth twitched. A tiny smirk. "I remember you." Hazel wanted to evaporate. To melt into the floor. To open a portal to another dimension and throw herself through it. She joked with her boss. Her actual boss. The owner of the entire company. The man who, according to whispered rumors, had connections that made even the city's most powerful players nervous. The man who could fire her with a snap of his fingers. And she'd asked if his boss was making him work late. Sweet Jesus. Sun Wu's gaze lingered on her for just a moment too long before moving on. He didn't speak during the meeting, Daniel did all the talking, but his presence dominated the space. People shifted nervously. Laughs came too quickly, died too fast. When it was over and everyone filed out, Hazel tried to disappear into the crowd. "Ms. Grant." She froze. Turned. Sun Wu stood 5 feet away, hands in his pockets, expression unreadable. "Yes, sir." Her voice came out smaller than she'd intended. "The tea was good. Thank you." Then he walked away, leaving her standing there, heart racing, skin flushed, completely and utterly lost. The call came that evening while Hazel was stress-eating ice cream on her couch. "Hazel, honey, I need to talk to you about something." Her mother's voice had that particular tone, the one that meant Hazel was about to hear a lengthy comparison between herself and her mother's best friend's daughter. "Mom, if this is about Ariana again." "She's engaged, Hazel. To that tech entrepreneur. They're having a party next month and good for her. And Linda keeps going on about how successful Ariana is, how she found such a wonderful man, how Hazel is still single after all these years. Mom. And I just think maybe if you put yourself out there more, were something other than those cardigans, maybe smiled at men instead of hiding behind your computer. I'm dating someone." The words exploded out of her before she could stop them. It's private. Okay? I'm dating someone, and it's going well, so you can tell Linda to mind her own business. Silence. Oh. Her mother's voice went soft, pleased. Oh honey. That's wonderful. Why didn't you tell me? He's not married, is he? No. God, no. Hazel's brain scrambled for something, anything that would satisfy her mother and end this conversation. He's the owner of my company. The words hung in the air like a grenade with the pin pulled. The owner, her mother repeated slowly. Of Blackzone Corporation. The tech company. Yes. Hazel Marie Grant, are you telling me you're dating a CEO? It's new. We're taking it slow. Please don't make a big deal out of this. But it was too late. Hazel could practically hear her mother's mind racing, already planning how to casually drop this information in her next conversation with Linda. I won't say a word, her mother promised, in the tone of someone who absolutely would say many words. But honey, I'm so proud of you. When can I meet him? Mom, I have to go. Love you. Bye. Hazel hung up and dropped her face into her hands. What had she just done? 3 days later, Hazel was still successfully avoiding both her mother's calls and Sun Wu's floor of the building when her cousin Jasmine showed up unannounced. Surprise. I was in the neighborhood and thought I'd kidnap you for lunch. They were chatting in the lobby, Jasmine detailing her latest disaster on a dating app, Hazel laughing for the first time in days, when the elevator dinged. Sun Wu stepped out. Time seemed to slow. He moved like liquid shadow, all lethal grace and controlled power. Today's suit was charcoal gray, the jacket open to reveal a black shirt with the top button undone. The tattoos on his neck were visible, definitely a dragon, its scales intricate and beautiful. People melted out of his path like he was radioactive. He didn't acknowledge them, didn't even seem to see them, his gaze fixed straight ahead as he headed for the exit. Except, his eyes cut to Hazel. Just for a second. A flicker of recognition. Then he was gone, disappearing into a black Mercedes that materialized at the curb like it had been summoned by dark magic. Jasmine's hand clamped onto Hazel's arm hard enough to bruise. Hazel, she breathed. Who the hell was that? Hazel swallowed hard. That's Sun Woo, the owner. Jasmine's jaw actually dropped. That's the guy your mum said you're. Holy shit, Hazel. Holy shit. He looks like he could murder someone with his bare hands and then take you to bed and… Jazz. And you're telling me that Walking Wet Dream is your boyfriend? It's complicated. Complicated. Jasmine stared at her. Hazel. That man looked at you like you were the only person in this entire lobby. Like everyone else was wallpaper. That's not complicated. She fanned herself. I need to sit down. Hazel's stomach twisted. Because now the lie had a face. And that face was going to haunt her dreams. The call came on a Saturday morning. Hazel, we have a problem. Her mother's voice was strained, tight with an emotion Hazel couldn't quite place. Panic? Regret? Both? What happened? Oh honey. I'm so sorry. I went out with the girls last night, and Linda started in again about Ariana and her fiancé, and how you were still single, and she was so smug, and I couldn't help it. I told her. Hazel's blood went cold. Told her what? About you and Sun Woo. About you dating the owner of Black Zone Corporation. The world tilted sideways. Mom. No. No, you didn't. I'm sorry. She was being so awful, making all these comments about how you're married to your job, how you'll end up alone, and I snapped. I told her you were dating someone impressive too. Someone successful. And then she asked who, and I. Please tell me you didn't give her his name. Silence. Mom. She Googled him, Hazel. Right there at the table. Found his picture, there aren't many, but there's one from some tech conference, and she went completely quiet. Then she got this look on her face, like she'd won the lottery, and she said, her mother's voice cracked. She said she's adding you +1 to Ariana's engagement party invitation. She insists you bring him. She's telling everyone. She said you already RSVP'd, yes. I didn't RSVP to anything. I know, but she's not listening. She called me this morning and said she can't wait to meet the mysterious owner. Hazel, I tried to backtrack. I tried to tell her it was new, that you might not be ready for that, but she just kept saying how wonderful it is and how she's so excited and… Mom. Hazel's voice came out flat, dead. It's fine. Her mother went quiet, the kind of silence that meant she didn't believe a word of it. Hazel. But Hazel was already pulling away, her voice thinning to something small and tired. I'll handle it. Another pause. A soft exhale. Okay. Just call me if you need me. Hazel ended the call before the guilt could settle in. She lay back on her bed, staring at the ceiling as the familiar pressure tightened around her ribs, the feeling of a life closing in, inch by inch. The room was too quiet. Her thoughts were too loud. For 2 days, Hazel spiraled. She couldn't bring someone else. Jasmine knew what Sun Woo looked like. If she showed up with a different man, the whole thing would unravel. She couldn't show up alone. Linda would weaponize it, turn it into a months-long humiliation campaign. Her mother would be mortified. The story would spread through their entire social circle. She couldn't skip, that would be even worse. Proof that she'd lied. Proof that she was exactly what Linda said, a lonely career woman who couldn't keep a man. There was only one option. The thought made her physically ill. Monday morning, she stood outside Sun Woo's office for 15 minutes, building up courage. The door was intimidating, solid black, no window, with a biometric scanner instead of a regular lock. This entire floor was his private domain. His assistant, a terrifyingly efficient woman named Jian, sat at a desk like a dragon guarding treasure. Can I help you? Jian asked, her expression neutral. Hazel's voice cracked. I need to speak with Mr. Lee. If he has time. If not, I can come back. Or send an email. Or never bother him again. Your name? Hazel Grant. From UX Design. Jian's expression flickered, surprise? Amusement? Before smoothing back to professional blankness. She picked up the phone, spoke in Korean, then hung up. He'll see you now. The door clicked open. Hazel stepped inside and forgot how to breathe. The office was massive, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Elliott Bay, minimalist furniture in black and chrome, art that radiated collector-level money. But it was the man behind the desk who stole the air from her lungs. Sun Woo sat in his chair like a king on a throne, perfectly still, perfectly composed. He wore all black today, black suit, black shirt, black tie. His hair was slightly disheveled, like he'd been running his hands through it. Those dark eyes tracked her movement across the room. Hazel. Her name in his mouth sounded like a secret. Sit. She sat, her legs trembling. He waited. Patient. Unhurried. Like he had all the time in the world. I need to ask you something, she blurted. And it's completely insane. And you're going to think I've lost my mind. And I'll understand if you want to fire me after this, but I'm desperate and I don't know what else to do and breathe. The command was soft but absolute. Hazel sucked in air. Tell me. So she did. She told him everything, her mother Ariana Linda, the lie that had spiraled out of control. The engagement party. The trap. The impossible situation. By the end, she was staring at her lap, her face burning with humiliation. Silence stretched between them. Then, accidentally, she looked up. He was watching her with an expression she couldn't read, something that might have been amusement dancing in those dark eyes. I panicked, she whispered. I'm so sorry. I never should have. You told your mother you were dating me. Yes. And now you need me to pretend to be your boyfriend at a party. Yes. But I know it's ridiculous, and you're a busy man, and you probably have better things to do than play pretend with some random employee who can't keep her mouth shut. I'll go. Hazel's brain short-circuited. I'm sorry, what? Sun Woo leaned back in his chair, his gaze never leaving her face. I'll go with you to the party. As your date. But why would you? Does it matter? Yes. I mean it's a huge favor. It's asking you to give up your time to lie for me, to deal with my family drama. Hazel. He said her name like a period at the end of a sentence. Final. I'll go. Text the details to Jian. She stared at him, searching for the catch, the angle, the reason. But his expression remained unreadable, calm, controlled, giving nothing away. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you. I owe you. Whatever you need. Go back to work, Hazel. It was a dismissal. She stood on shaking legs and made it to the door before his voice stopped her. Hazel. She turned. He was watching her with an intensity that made her skin flush hot. Wear something blue. It suits you. Then he looked back down at his papers, and she was dismissed for real this time. Hazel stumbled out of his office, her heart hammering, her mind reeling. What the hell had she just done? The night of the party arrived too quickly and not quickly enough. Hazel stood in front of her mirror, second-guessing everything. The dress was midnight blue, fitted bodice, flowing skirt that hit just above her knees, thin straps that showed off her shoulders. It was more daring than her usual style, but something had possessed her when she saw it in the store window. Wear something blue. A knock at her door sent her pulse skyrocketing. She opened it and forgot how to form words. Sun Woo stood in her doorway in a navy suit that fit him like a sin. No tie, the white shirt open at the collar, revealing those tattoos that crept up his throat. His hair was styled back, revealing the full impact of that devastating face. He looked like sex and danger wrapped in expensive fabric. His eyes darkened as they traveled over her. Slowly, deliberately, taking in every curve, every inch of exposed skin. Beautiful, he murmured, his voice rough. Hazel's face went hot. Thank you. You look illegal. Lethal. Like walking temptation. Nice. His mouth curved in that half smile. Ready. The drive to the venue was quiet but not uncomfortable. Sun Woo drove himself, a sleek black car that looked expensive, and Hazel tried not to stare at his hands on the steering wheel. Strong hands. Scarred knuckles. Tattoos winding around his wrists. Nervous? He asked. Terrified. Don't be. He glanced at her, something warm in his eyes. I'm very good at pretending. Something about the way he said it made her wonder if he was pretending at all. They arrived fashionably late, a choice, Hazel realized, when every head in the room turned to watch them enter. The venue was gorgeous, a converted warehouse space with exposed brick, string lights, and enough flowers to shame a botanical garden. Ariana and her fiancé stood near the entrance, greeting guests. Ariana's smile froze when she saw them. Sunwoo's hand settled on the small of Hazel's back, possessive, warm, sending electricity up her spine. He guided her forward with the easy confidence of a man who owned every room he entered. Ariana, Hazel managed. Congratulations. This is Sunwoo. Sunwoo, this is Ariana, my mother's best friend's daughter. Sunwoo inclined his head, polite, distant, utterly unimpressed. Congratulations on your engagement. His accent was more pronounced around strangers, his words carefully chosen. Ariana's fiancé, a man in his 30s with too much gel in his hair and a watch that screamed try hard, looked Sunwoo up and down with barely concealed insecurity. And you are? The fiancé asked, puffing up slightly. Lee Sunwoo. He said it like a blade being unsheathed. Hazel's boyfriend. The word sent a thrill through her that she absolutely should not be feeling. They moved deeper into the party, and Hazel felt the weight of dozens of stares. Whispers followed in their wake. Her mother materialized out of the crowd, her eyes bright with tears. Hazel. Sweetheart. She pulled Hazel into a hug, then turned to Sunwoo with an expression of awe. Mr. Lee. It's such an honor. Thank you for coming. Sunwoo smiled, actually smiled, warm and genuine. Please, call me Sunwoo. And the honor is mine. You raised an extraordinary woman. Hazel's mother actually blushed. Jasmine appeared next, vibrating with barely contained excitement. She hugged Hazel and whispered, "Holy shit, he's even hotter up close," before turning to Sunwoo with a megawatt smile. Sunwoo was charming in a way Hazel hadn't expected, polite, attentive, asking questions and remembering answers. But there was a reserve to him, a sense that he was playing a role. Only when he looked at Hazel did something real flicker in his eyes. An hour in, the music shifted to something slower. Dance with me, Sunwoo murmured in her ear. It wasn't a question. He led her to the dance floor, his hand warm and solid in hers. When he pulled her close, one hand on her waist, the other cradling her hand against his chest, she felt the entire world narrow to just the two of them. He was a good dancer. Confident. Leading her with small pressures and shifts of weight. Close enough that she could feel the heat of him, smell that amberwood scent that made her dizzy. You're tense, he observed. Everyone's staring. Let them. His thumb traced small circles on her waist, the touch burning through fabric. You look nervous. I'm here because I want to be. Her heart stuttered. Sunwoo. Stop overthinking. He leaned down, his breath warm against her ear. Just dance with me, Hazel. So she did. She let herself sink into the moment, the solid warmth of his body, the gentle sway of the music, the way his hands splayed across her back like he was memorizing the shape of her. When she looked up, she found him watching her with an intensity that stole her breath. What? She whispered. You're different than I expected. Different how? Softer. Kinder. His hand tightened on her waist. You made me laugh, that night in the kitchen. Do you know how rare that is? I just made a stupid joke. You spoke to me like a person. Not a boss. Not a weapon. Just a man. Something vulnerable flickered across his face. You have no idea what that meant. Hazel's throat went tight. Sunwoo. The music ended. Sunwoo stepped back, his mask sliding back into place. But something had shifted between them, something real, something dangerous. It happened near the bathrooms. Hazel was walking back from freshening up when Ariana's fiancé, clearly drunk, clearly bitter, stepped into her path. So how much does it cost? He slurred. Hazel blinked. Excuse me. To get a guy like that to pretend to be your boyfriend must be expensive. Or maybe, his eyes raked over her body in a way that made her skin crawl. Maybe you're paying in other ways. Horror and humiliation crashed over her. Get out of my way. He grabbed her arm. I'm just saying, A girl like you with a guy like him? It doesn't add up. Unless. A presence materialized behind him. Sun Woo. He didn't touch the man. Didn't raise his voice. Didn't move at all, actually. But the temperature in the hallway seemed to drop 10 degrees. Let her go. 3 words. Quiet as a whisper. Sharp as a knife. The fiancé turned, saw Sun Woo's face, and went pale. Whatever he saw there, in those dark, flat, utterly emotionless eyes, made him release Hazel's arm like it had burned him. I didn't mean, I was just. Walk away. Sun Woo's voice was silk over steel. Now. The man practically ran. Sun Woo turned to Hazel, and the coldness evaporated, replaced by concern. Are you hurt? No. I'm fine. Thank you. His hand came up to cup her face, his thumb brushing her cheek with devastating gentleness. No one touches you. Ever. Understand? The possessiveness in his voice should have scared her. Instead, it made her feel safe. I understand, she whispered. His eyes searched hers for a long moment. Then he took her hand and led her back to the party, his touch careful, protective, like she was something precious. Hazel realized something that made her heart race. Sun Woo wasn't dangerous. He was dangerous for her. But never to her. The morning after the party, Hazel sat across from her mother in her childhood kitchen, the weight of guilt heavy in her chest. Mom, I need to tell you something. Her mother looked up from her coffee, still glowing from the previous night's success. What is it, honey? I lied. About Sun Woo. About us dating. The words came out in a rush. I panicked when you were talking about Ariana, and I said the first thing that came to mind. We're not actually together. He came to the party as a favor. I'm so sorry. Her mother was quiet for a long moment. Then, I know. Hazel blinked. What? Sweetheart, I've known you for 28 years. I know when you're lying. Her mother reached across the table to take her hand. I also saw the way that man looked at you last night. Like you were the only person in the room. Like nothing in the world mattered more than keeping you safe. Mom. I'm sorry too. For making you feel like you had to lie. For comparing you to Ariana. For caring too much about what Linda thinks. Her mother squeezed her hand. But Hazel, I don't think he was pretending. Not really. Hazel's heart clenched. It was just an act. Was it? Her mother smiled gently. Maybe you should ask him. Monday morning found Hazel standing outside Sun Woo's office again, her heart in her throat. Jian looked up, something knowing in her eyes. He's expecting you. The door clicked open. Sun Woo sat at his desk, reading something on his computer. He looked up when she entered, his expression unreadable. Hazel. I wanted to thank you, she said, staying near the door. For the party. For helping me. You didn't have to do that. I know. He stood, moving around the desk with that predatory grace. Is that the only reason you're here? Yes? I mean, I wanted to apologize too. For dragging you into my mess. For making you pretend. I wasn't pretending. The words hung in the air between them. Hazel's breath caught. What? Sun Woo stepped closer. Then closer. Until he was right in front of her, so close she could feel the heat radiating off his body. I didn't go to that party because of your lie, Hazel. His voice was low, rough, barely controlled. I went because I wanted to. Because I've wanted to since the moment you walked into that kitchen and spoke to me like I was human. Sun Woo. Do you have any idea how rare you are? He cupped her face with both hands, tilting her head up to meet his gaze. How extraordinary. You looked at me, at this face, this body, these tattoos that most people find terrifying, and you smiled. You made a joke. You saw me. Hazel's hands came up to grip his wrists, grounding herself. I don't understand. You could have anyone. Why would you want? You. The word was absolute. I want you. Your kindness. Your warmth. The way you blush when I look at you. The way you're brave even when you're terrified. His thumb brushed across her lower lip, and she shivered. I've been watching you for months, Hazel. Since the day you started. I've memorized the way you bite your lip when you're concentrating. The way you laugh at Brian's terrible jokes. The way you always eat lunch alone because you're too shy to impose on others. Her voice came out breathless. That's a little creepy. He smiled, that rare genuine smile that transformed his entire face. I know. I don't care. I lied, she whispered. I lied because, she swallowed hard, gathering courage. Because I wanted it to be you. Even then when I barely knew you, I wanted it to be true. His eyes went dark, hungry. Say that again. I wanted it to be you. Hazel. Her name was a prayer and a curse. If I kiss you right now, I won't stop. I won't be able to pretend this is fake. I won't be able to keep my distance. She went up on her toes, her hands sliding into his hair. Good. He kissed her. It was nothing like she'd imagined, not gentle, not soft. It was devastating. Consuming. His mouth claimed hers with a possessive hunger that made her knees weak, his hands sliding down to her waist, pulling her flush against his body. She could feel every hard plane of muscle, every controlled tremor. He kissed her like she was oxygen and he'd been drowning. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Sun Woo rested his forehead against hers. I'm not an easy man to be with, he murmured. I have enemies. I have secrets. My world is dark, Hazel. Dangerous. I don't care. You should. She pulled back enough to meet his eyes. You scare everyone else. But not me. You could never scare me. Something in his expression cracked, vulnerability bleeding through the mask. How can you be so sure? Because I see you, she said simply. The real you. And I'm not afraid. He kissed her again, softer this time, deeper. Pouring everything he couldn't say into the slide of his lips against hers. Be mine, he whispered against her mouth. Not pretend. Not fake. Really mine. Yes. She smiled against his lips. Yes. The weeks that followed were a revelation. Sun Woo courted her the way she imagined Victorian gentlemen courted their ladies. Flowers delivered to her desk, books he thought she'd like, quiet dinners at restaurants she'd mentioned wanting to try. But there was nothing old-fashioned about the way he kissed her in dark corners, the intensity of his attention, the way closeness with him felt both dangerous and impossibly safe. He let her into his world slowly, his penthouse with its floor-to-ceiling windows and minimalist furniture, his private life that no one else saw. He told her about growing up in Seoul, about the choices he'd made, about the empire he'd built through means both legal and not. Does it bother you? He asked one night, his fingers tracing patterns on her bare shoulder. What I am. What I've done. Hazel looked up at him from where she lay curled against his chest. You've never hurt anyone who didn't deserve it. You protect the people you care about. You built something extraordinary from nothing. She pressed a kiss to his jaw. No. It doesn't bother me. He held her tighter, like she might disappear. In return, Hazel gave him her softness, her warmth, her absolute trust. She introduced him to her favorite coffee shop, taught him to make cookies, fell asleep on his couch during movie nights. She saw past the tattoos and the scars and the dangerous reputation to the man underneath, the one who made her tea without asking, who remembered how she liked her coffee, who looked at her like she hung the moon. They chose each other. Not because of a lie, but because of the truth it had revealed. 6 months later, Hazel woke to sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows and the solid warmth of Sun Woo's body behind her. His penthouse had become their sanctuary, a space high above the city where the rest of the world couldn't reach them. Where he could just be Sun Woo, and she could just be Hazel, and nothing else mattered. His arm was wrapped around her waist, holding her against his chest. She felt him stir, his lips pressing a kiss to her bare shoulder. You still blush when I look at you, he murmured, his voice rough with sleep. Hazel smiled, feeling the heat creep up her neck even though he couldn't see her face. That's because you look at me like you want to devour me. I do. His hand splayed across her stomach, possessive and warm. Every day. Every hour. You have no idea what you do to me. She turned in his arms, facing him. His hair was messy, falling into his eyes. The morning light caught the silver in the scar through his eyebrow. He was beautiful, devastatingly, dangerously beautiful, and he was hers. My accidental boyfriend, she teased. His mouth curved in that half-smile she loved. Best accident of my life. He kissed her slowly, deeply, the kind of kiss that said I love you in every language. When they finally broke apart, Hazel traced the dragon tattoo that wound up his neck. We should get ready, she murmured. Our flight leaves in 3 hours. Their first real vacation together, 2 weeks in Jeju Island, where Sun-woo promised to show her the Korea he'd grown up loving. No work. No obligations. Just them. 5 more minutes. He pulled her closer, his face buried in her hair. I want 5 more minutes of this. So she gave them to him, curling into his warmth, her fingers playing with the simple necklace he'd given her for their 6-month anniversary, a delicate gold chain with a small pendant in the shape of a teacup. To remember the beginning, he'd said when he'd fastened it around her neck. Eventually they did get up, moving through the morning routine they developed. Sun-woo made coffee while Hazel packed the last few items. He watched her from the kitchen, his eyes soft in a way they were for no one else. What? She asked, catching his gaze. Nothing. Just looking at you. Creepy, she said, but she was smiling. I know. I don't care. They finished packing and stood on the balcony one last time before leaving, the sunrise painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. Seattle spread out below them, the city where they'd met, where a panicked lie had become the truest thing in both their lives. Sun-woo's arm came around her waist, pulling her back against his chest. Hazel leaned into him, her head resting over his heart. I love you, he murmured into her hair. Words he still said like they were sacred. Like they were new. I love you too. They stood there, wrapped in each other, watching the world wake up. Safe. Loved. Chosen. Together. And ahead of them, vast and golden and full of promise, stretched the rest of their lives. Happily ever after. Not because of fate. Not because of chance. But because of a lie that had revealed the truth. They were meant for each other. Always.